Welcome back to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. Our mission is to share what we have learned from our experience and the experience of others to help you make more money investing like a pro. We want to teach you how to create wealth by investing in real estate the Discount Property Investor way. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. Thanks for tuning in. Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Your host, Mike Slane, with co-host
David Dodge. Hey, guys.
What's going on? We are the Discount Property Investors, and we like buying real estate. So that's what we're going to talk about.
That's right.
Let's change it up today.
Buying real estate.
Talk about real estate. No, we are going to change it up a little bit. So our primary discussion is usually something to do with wholesaling real estate. But that also, we recognize wholesaling is more of a job, a high-paying job, but it's more of a job than a path to freedom. And what we really like is freedom. Freedom of time, freedom of money, the ability to do what we want when we want. So that is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about building a rental portfolio. We have built a rental portfolio. We've done this over 100 times, buying rental properties, and we've employed what's called the BRRRR method. So we've talked about this in the past. The BRRRR method is an acronym for buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. So again, that's the BRRRR method in a nutshell. And today we wanted to focus in on funding the purchase, right, Dave?
That's right.
Yeah, so funding the purchase. A lot of people, and our target audience has always been newer investors. We kind of dive into some more advanced topics, but a lot of newer investors say, well, I don't have money. I can't do this. And that is a fallacy. That is I
like that you didn't say a lie, because it's not necessarily a lie, but it's also not a fact.
Well, it's a mindset.
It's a mindset. That's exactly right.
It's like that, what's that Henry Ford saying? If you believe you can or you believe you can't.
If you believe you can, you can. If you believe you can't,
right.
You can't.
You're correct.
Right.
So, again, if you think you can't, you're right. You absolutely can. If you think, hey, you know what, maybe I can, you absolutely can. So funding the purchase. Let's talk about what we do or have done or can do, because we've done all these. Well, almost all of these. I haven't done a lease option before, but we'll get to that when we get to it. So first and foremost, the easiest way to buy is cash. So again, we recognize that newer investors don't necessarily have $30,000, $40,000, $100,000 sitting around to purchase a property with cash. So that is totally understandable. But there are ways around that. We've got a funding partner. We'll leave some links to some of our funding partners, too. I know I've got two of them that I really like right now.
Sure.
That we'll put in there. One of them uses a combination of like your business name and your business credit to generate you 0% interest via credit cards to purchase real estate. So, again, it's a way to do that, again, you can come up with the cash. So cash is number one. Cash is always king. What we use, and I think our preferred method, is using private lenders. So we're talking about purchasing properties and using private lenders. How does that work? It works very similar to when you purchase with a bank, except there's a lot less paperwork and a lot less red tape. When you purchase with a bank, they put a deed on the property. So they record basically some paperwork against the property when you purchase it that states that they are owed money on this property. So when title is run, someone else has to clear that deed. They need a deed of release on that property so that they can then purchase it. So similar situation, when you use a private lender, you are going to want to record that deed of trust against the property so that it is, again, so that it's recorded. So when you go to refinance this later with a bank, they see there is a loan or a lien on this property and that it needs to be paid off or released prior to the refinance or at the time of the refinance. So that is private funding. Where do you find private lenders? Well, I think we've got these a little bit backwards here in our previous attempt, the BRRRR method book we went on these on, or we spoke about these on, because I think hard money is kind of the next step up. It's cash, then you can get a hard money lender.
I agree.
In terms of ease of access. Why do I say that? So a hard money lender.
Well, as long as you defined like a line of credit as cash,
Mm-hmm.
it's cash or cash alternatives that
Right.
you immediately have access to would be the first tier.
Mm-hmm.
Second would definitely be hard money, and it's not hard to get. It's just based on a hard asset.
Correct.
And then so on and so forth. So yeah, I agree, Mike.
Yeah, so a hard money lender. So who's a hard money lender? What's a hard money lender? They are more of an institutional lender. Typically, they're somebody who is lending money as their profession or as their business, and they're going to charge pretty high interest rates, typically on short-term loans for real estate. Because again, it's a hard money lender because it's a hard asset, such as real estate. So that is hard money lending. How do you get private lenders? So the reason I kind of went down that path was after you've done a few deals with a hard money lender, you're going to start to feel a lot more confident about, hey, I am a real estate investor. I've done deals. You're going to have a track record to show people that you know. So again, private lenders are typically people you know, the people that you either met through business dealings or people that are in your life who have money that, again, would be willing to lend it to make a good return on the money, on the loan that they lend you, or the money that they lend you. So again, once you've established that comfort level, it's a lot easier to approach family and friends and say, hey, can I borrow $80,000 for this property? And they'll be like, well, you're crazy, especially if it's your first deal. Whereas if you've done 3 or 4, say, hey, this is what I'm doing. So, and you can walk them through the whole process. Say, listen, I buy the property, then I fix it up, and then I go to a bank and refinance it. Here's 3 properties I just bought that I did this with. If you want to make 10% on your money, let me know. I'd love to borrow money from you. Otherwise, I'm either paying you or I'm paying the hard money lender. It's fine by me. So again, it's you've got less to, when you are not begging for the money, when you aren't desperate for it, again, it's just a lot easier to ask for it, I think. So again, having the experience with the hard money lenders just makes that conversation much easier if it's somebody that you know personally. So that's private lending. Some of our private lenders, again, are people that we've done business with in the past, and they're in real estate themselves, and they just have extra cash and they want to loan it out. So we say, okay, great, can we borrow it? They say, great, it's a win-win. They want to make a chunk of change on the cash instead of having it sit in their savings account, and we want to buy properties with them. So it just makes it very, very easy. Both of those are easier than getting a bank loan. So bank loans typically are going to take significantly longer to get. So it's going to almost eliminate your ability to buy off-market deals. So again, that's kind of why we like cash, hard money, or private lenders, because we can still move really quick on our closings, which is important to us.
That's right.
Yep. So bank funding, mentioned that. That's kind of...
Can you talk about the rates and terms on each of those?
I haven't.
Okay.
Let's talk about bank funding and then get into the rates.
Sure.
If that works for you.
Please.
Yeah, so bank funding, you're all familiar with this, or you most likely are familiar with this, in that you have purchased a property, or you know of people who purchase properties and they get bank loans. It's very, very
Probably
standard.
97 to 99% of how most real estate transactions occur.
Yeah, I would say of primary residences, almost 99%.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
of all real estate transactions, I don't know.
Maybe a little less,
No
but
idea.
I mean the majority, guys. If it's a single family home, 95+% are getting a bank loan.
But banks, again, they require the most from you. They require the most documentation. They want to see 2 years income, W-2s, taxes. They want to see all sorts
Debt
of
to income ratio,
Exactly.
credit scores,
Thank you. They look at everything.
the big stuff.
So again, the hard money lenders, the private lenders, they're not going to look at all this stuff. They're going to look more at the deal and more at, again, the private lenders, maybe you a little bit as a person. That's about it. So again, the bank is the one who's going to give you the cheapest money. So Dave, you want to talk about rates? I'll segue into that for
So
you.
the bank's going to be the cheapest, like Mike said. Typically, you can get a loan anywhere from 2 to 6% from a bank, and it's going to vary depending on a lot of things that I'm not going to get into. But just know that a 2 or 3% loan, if it's a primary residence and it's not an investment property, isn't crazy by any means. If it's an investment property, you're typically looking at somewhere around the 4 to 6% range, but that's still incredibly cheap, guys. So 2 to 6% typically on your bank loans. If it's your own cash, there's no rate. It's just an opportunity cost. If you're using a line of credit, you're again going to probably be closer to the 5 or 6%, give or take, to borrow from the bank. But when you're using a line of credit, you're actually pledging your own assets or something, right? Next would be your private lending. And I've seen people get private loans as low as 8. Personally, I've always paid 10 or 12%. So I'd say the range on your private is going to be anywhere from 8 to 15%. Hard money is going to be a little bit more. I would say your hard money is typically going to be closer to 14 or 16%. However, if you have a good relationship with your hard money lender, you might be able to get them down. So if I was to give you a spread on the hard money, you're probably going to be looking somewhere around 12 to 16%. Whereas private money is going to be somewhere between 8 and 12%. And bank financing is going to be between 2 and 6%. That's it.
Okay, so you heard those percentages, and bank rates sound amazing. We all want to borrow that money as much as we can. At least I know Dave and I do. Our goal
I do. Trying to get my hands all over that money.
10 million, 20 million in debt, baby. I want that. As long as
right.
it's that good debt. But you're also hearing those interest rates at 8 to 16%, maybe even higher in some cases on
the hard
money lenders. And you think, well, hell, I'm not going to pay somebody 16%. Well, why not?
Yeah.
If you're going to make $40,000 on a deal, or if you're going to create a cash flowing asset for yourself, add $30,000 in equity and $300 a month cash flow, why do you care if you pay 15%?
Exactly. So here's the thing I want to mention just real quick, Mike, and it goes with what you're saying. It's all about the term, right? So the loans that we had mentioned, that are 2 to 3%, those are typically 30-year terms, right? They're typically fixed rate loans. They're amortized over the same amount of time frame as the loan. So that's something that everybody needs to be aware of. Whenever you're dealing with lending, there is a term on the loan, which is basically when the money has to be paid back or is due. But then there's also an amortization time frame. And I refer to it as a term as well, but it's different. They're two different things. So when you're talking about this cheap money, it's typically a longer term loan. And the amortization is going to match. It's going to be, a 30-year amortization and a 30-year term. Well, when you get into the hard money and private money sphere, you're going to be paying double, if not triple, if not quadruple the interest rate, but these people are lending on a much shorter term. And I think that has a lot to do with the rate, okay? Also, when using a private or hard money lender, you may not be required to have any skin in the game. Now, you may. It's all going to depend on the lender. But if you can get a home run deal, and as Mike kind of mentioned earlier, if you have a little bit of experience and you've had success doing this already, it's going to be a lot less risky for the lender, right? For the person that's lending to you. So you might be able to, acquire a deal and even get enough money lent to you to rehab it and have none of your money in the game. But
that is what we like.
That's what we like. Mm-hmm. But it's going to be more risky for the lender. So they're, of course, going to want to charge that 12 or 14 or even 16% if that's the case. All right. Now, with the bank loan, you are almost always going to have skin in the game. All right. Typically, it's going to be 20%. Unless you're using the BRRRR method and you know that there's ways around it, but typically a bank's going to want to see 20% equity in the deal.
Well, we're talking about like our initial purchase, really.
Right.
So on your initial purchase, 100%.
Yeah, refis are a whole different ballpark.
You're 90. Yeah, you're almost guaranteed to have 20% with a bank loan,
unless you buy like with a VA loan or an FHA type of a product. These loans are going to allow you to bring less money in. So, it could be 5%, could be, 2.5%, 3% with FHA. Mm-hmm. I don't know the exact figures. However,
VA is zero.
VA is zero, right. Mm-hmm. However, they're going to have a lot of restrictions. You can't use these loans for investment properties unless you buy them as primary residence, live there for a short period of time, and then you move out. I think that'd kind of be the only way to legally go about doing it. The other approach would be... the other downside to to these cheaper loans is, if you're not putting down at least 20% equity or have 20% skin in the game somehow, you're going to be required to have PMI, which stands for Private Mortgage Insurance. And that insurance, I believe, is a government insurance agency, is it not, Mike?
I don't know. I think
kind of a little over my pay grade, honestly.
But I hate it.
But you have to have it, though, is my point. If you don't have 20% equity, you have to have private mortgage insurance, which essentially insures the bank or the lending party of you against your default. And the thing that I really hate about PMI is once you get to 20%, you can get it removed, but it's up to the borrower to request. Yeah. So if you don't know that you're all of a sudden at 20%, and nobody tells you, which it's not really in their best interest to tell you, you're going to keep making this insurance payment.
And I don't remember
which is so annoying.
The rule is now, but I think they don't have to tell you or release it until 25%. I think once you get to 25%,
then they're forced to. Okay,
have to drop.
That's news to me.
Something along those lines. Yeah,
that's news to me.
There's a very, very specific. Yeah, again, but I don't like PMI. I think it's it benefits you zero.
It benefits you zero, right? And you have to pay for it too, which is annoying. So, But anyway, not to get too deep into the weeds here, guys.
That is also more on your private or personal residences, like we were talking about.
Yeah, with commercial loans. So let's talk about commercial loans because we haven't really touched on that yet. But when buying investment properties, banks are typically want to lend you commercially. All right, which basically means that they're going to have a little bit higher rate. Not a ton, but a little bit higher rate, a little bit shorter term, okay? And the amortization may or may not line up with those terms, right? So typically on, a personal residence, this is a primary residence for you and your family to live in. It's going to be very easy to get a 30-year term with the 30-year amortization schedule. And again, you may have 20%. You may use FHA or VA or whatever you can, and have little to no money in that deal, right? But again, they're assuming you are going to be living in that house and there daily or weekly and maintaining it and keeping it up. Well, with commercial, they know you're not living in that property. In fact, I don't even think you can get a commercial loan on a residential piece of property. Maybe you can, but I've never heard of it.
Personal residence, no.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. So the commercial loans are basically more designed for investors. Therefore, they have a little bit more risk. So they're not going to want to lend you 30 years. It's typically going to be a 20-year term. Now, again, you may find a bank that does 25. You may find a bank that does 15, but typically it's about 20 years. Amortization also 20 to 25 years. I mentioned the rate would be a little higher. Now, it's not typically a ton higher, but you're looking at, a half of a point to a point, basically, in terms of your rate being a little bit higher. What am I missing, Mike? It's about it, isn't it?
So there's the period as well. So although it is amortized over a 20 to 25 year term, the period of the loan will probably be 3 to 5 years.
I missed that.
Meaning that after 3 years or 5 years or whatever the term of the loan is,
it's a rate lock period is what they call it.
Kind of. It's not.
But the loan either has to renew or it becomes due.
Right. So I mean, technically, the way they're all written though is the loan is due. Our lenders, again, they don't. And most lenders, they're not trying to...
Well, it's not in their best interest.
Right. They don't want to take the properties back. They would rather renew the loan at a new interest rate because, again, especially at historically low interest rates, they're expecting rates to go up at some point. I mean, we all are, right? There's no way they can keep going down. So, again, so you've got a 3 to 5 year, I guess that's called the period, right? I don't know. That's what we're going to call it.
It's just like the loan term, I believe.
The term.
Yeah. But it can. But and that's where it's a little confusing because you can have a loan that's a 3-year loan, but it could be amortized over 20 years, and that's a little confusing for a lot of people, I think.
Well, and what it does is, again, the longer the amortization period is going to decrease your monthly payment. Mm-hmm. So that's going to increase your cash flow, and all these things can be slightly confusing. So let's try to summarize or wrap it up there.
Sure.
Because I've got a great place to send people. If you go check out the free landlordcourse.com, On every page, we put a rental property analyzer. And what that does is it helps you analyze a rental property deal to determine whether or not it's going to work as a BRRRR property for you to get all of your money back, you to hit your rental metrics, and for you to leave $0 in the property or whatever your target metric is. And you can adjust all those things. But it's set up. You can adjust the loan term. You can adjust the interest rate. You can adjust everything you want. But we've got a video on how we use it. And again, you can download that. It's a Google file, what is that called? Sheet. And again, when you click the link, it actually just downloads it to your own little Google Drive, and you've got your own sheet that you get to manipulate. Nobody sees that except for you. So that's where I think I'd like to leave it, guys. We're talking about the BRRRR method, how to purchase properties or how to fund them, and those were the different ways that we fund our purchases.
And you mentioned free landlord course?
Free landlord course.
All right. Check it out, guys. Signing off. Thanks for listening to the Discount Property Investor Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please like, share, and subscribe to help us reach a wider audience. To jumpstart your real estate investing career, visit freewholesalecourse.com, the most complete free course on wholesaling real estate ever. We would also appreciate it if you left us a review on iTunes or Stitcher. Thank you in advance for your support. And remember, you make your money when you buy. You get paid when you sell. Now let's go build some wealth.